Hello and welcome to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies and series, including SG-1, Atlantis Universe, and more. I'm Father Cory Sticha. With me today are Lisa Jones and Victor Lambs. Howdy, Lisa.
Hey, Father Cory.
And howdy, Victor.
Howdy do, Father Cory.
Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to join our Discord server. We're having a lot of fun there, and you can get your invite at sqpn.com/discord. And if you want to show off how much you love The Secrets of Stargate and the other StarQuest shows, you can go to sqpn.com/merch and get your t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and much, much more. So you can show the whole world how great our stuff is.
Our stuff is pretty great.
Our stuff is pretty great. Today we are discussing Absolute Power, the 17th episode from the 4th season of Stargate SG-1. So it's been a year since Daniel Jackson found the Harcesis child, and the ascendant ancient Oma took him away. Now the child Shifu has grown by at least 10 years, thanks to the wonderful aging nanobots that previously infected Jack and turned him into an old man. In trying to convince Shifu to share the Gwald genetic memory that he holds, Daniel is knocked out and Shifu shares enough knowledge to create an anti-Gwald defensive satellite system. Over the course of the next year that it takes to develop this system, Daniel becomes more controlling and power-hungry like a good Gwald, to the point of destroying Moscow in response to Russian opposition to the now-revealed satellite program. Of course, the entire year is actually just a dream that Shifu uses to teach Daniel the dangers of Gwald knowledge. Daniel wakes up in time for Shifu to turn into an energy being and return through the Stargate. And now Victor has gotten us canceled in Russia because he showed the picture of Moscow being destroyed. So, Victor, what do you think of this episode?
I like it. I like the kind of, dark Daniel future that it shows. I think it cuts the legs out from underneath itself in a couple of ways, just in terms of how the story is structured. We can get into that a little bit more. We're never really doubting that Daniel's in a dream world. They even set that up by referencing Forever in a Day at the beginning of it. The last time Daniel was in a dream, they gave him an alternate version of the future. So there are some ways that they could have structured the story that would have been a lot more impactful and would have been a lot cooler for the audience. But the Daniel goes evil stuff is pretty cool. That I think it's about 22 minutes out of the 42 minutes is pretty good. The other stuff around the edges is kind of filler. But it has an interesting message, which is, if you consort with, Gould and try to gain their knowledge, you will become that. So it's a very strange game, and the only way to win is not to play.
Yep. How about you, Lisa?
Okay, I watched it with my 16-year-old she said she'd never seen this episode before. And so she's going to take issue with a little bit of what you said, Victor. But the first thing she told me to say was, this episode was so slay. That's what she said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Daniel's a slay guy.
Loved this episode. And she did not see it coming that it was a dream.
Okay.
So you said it was obvious, but for those of us, not me, but those of people like my daughter who aren't obsessed with Stargate, she didn't see it coming. So she absolutely loved it. She loved evil Daniel on the dark side, cold, calculating. She loved that. And then of course, she loves everything Daniel Jackson, which she and I can disagree. But it was kind of fun watching it with her because I've seen this episode so many times, so it's hard to remember what it felt like the first time to watch it. And it's neat the second, third, 15th time around because you know what's coming and you know all those little twists and turns and you can appreciate kind of the layers of the episode. But for her, not realizing it and watching Shifu and then watching Daniel become evil and they'd be like, but wait, what did he do? Wait a minute, what's he doing? And then watching the team members all, him turn against the team members really. So she loved it. And then for him to wake up and be his sweet self, that was
back to normal.
Yeah. And have all this knowledge and everyone's listening to him. So certain things I found irritating, she adored. So that's my 16-year-old's review. Yeah.
I have to admit, it kind of almost felt like they woke up, as they're in the writing room going, well, we need to figure out episodes for our 4th season. Oh, wait, we've got this Harcesis character. We better fit that in there, at least once, because we don't see him again.
Yeah.
He's talked about, you hear about him, but you don't ever see him again. He's disappeared off the face of the earth. And it's like, oh, yeah, we better just at least close that plot line and just move on,
Mm-hmm.
But it is, it is a good way to handle it of what would happen if, instead of doing an alternate timeline, instead this is, just Daniel having a couple hours of a nap, basically. I mean, we don't know how long Daniel's out, but you can assume it was, a day maybe, because long enough to get a hold of the Tok'ra and get the Tok'ra true
Zaytar.
lie
Zaytar
detector,
yes.
So I mean, there was some time that he was out, but he wasn't out for weeks or months or even a year. It was just for a day or two, for a little while. So that was that was again a good way to handle it. So you don't have the we got to after we just had an episode where we have to go back and clean up the last 10 years. Now we got to go back and clean up the last year. It doesn't quite work. That won't quite work as well. So this is another good alternate. I did like this one. I did like the fact that they went back to the Harcesis child and all that, and
the golden child.
Of course. What's that?
The golden child.
Yeah, exactly.
Kept expecting to see Eddie Murphy come and go like, I want the knife. Can I have the knife, please? It's a funny movie. Or him to jump on a giant flying buffalo and go, Appa, yip, yip. Like
exactly. That's more what I felt it was more like, Avatar. But I mean, of course, he's speaking in the parables or however you want to put it, the koans of and I love Jack at the beginning there saying, well, I think he's saying that, you're a good, strong leader, and I don't know. And Daniel just kind of goes, don't ask me.
Yeah, it did get convoluted, but it is very good to have a big, strong. Anyways, as we go along here. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I still... the way it's structured, it's very uneven. It's because we get 12 minutes of Daniel, rapping with the Harcesis, and then all of a sudden he's like, has the mojo put in him, and we get this like 20-minute like It's a Wonderful Life. Instead of it's like, Mary, don't you know me? It's like, Mary, I'm gonna nuke Russia. And then that was my Jimmy Stewart impression for anybody.
Don't ever do that again.
No, I won't do that one again. Jesus pedals. And then so I mean, the way I would have done this is we would have started with them working on the satellites, and we would have thought, oh yeah, Carter's working on a satellite, but then eventually it becomes known that Daniel's like the brains behind it, so the audience is like, oh, what's going on? Daniel's the brain behind it, and then like maybe in flashbacks we would have seen, oh, we found a Harcesis child, and then maybe at the 30-minute mark, oh, the Harcesis child was trying to teach Daniel something, and then at the 40-minute mark, oh, the Harcesis child put Daniel into a coma. And that's why the past 40 minutes have been playing out the way they have. And then they woke up, because the thing with the Tok'ra and the Zaytar detector, that felt like very tacked on at the end. It's like, you don't need to have that there. Daniel can just wake up and say like, oh, I know what you were teaching me. Oh, your name is Shifu. That means teacher in Chinese. Okay, so dreams teach. Oh, well, that we just said that like at the beginning of the episode. So and then but I would have done it. I would have like meted out the part with the Harcesis a little bit more, so that the audience really didn't know what was going on, and like, oh, we're developing satellite weapons. Oh, Daniel's the one developing satellite weapons. Oh, where's Teal'c?
So now Teal'c didn't show up a lot in this episode, and he was talked about basically that he had died, that something had happened to him, but there was more that supposedly that originally was written into the episode.
Yeah, that's right. There was a scene that was actually written in and filmed and then cut from the episode, because I think it was viewed to be just a little too dark for the episode. It's later revealed that Daniel has kidnapped Teal'c and is keeping him cloistered away and basically extracting the Naquadah from Teal'c's blood, or giving Daniel himself transfusions of Teal'c's blood in order to, put the Naquadah into Daniel's blood so that he can activate some of the Goa'uld technology. And so that's why we don't see Teal'c for most of this episode. There was actually a scene where we saw Teal'c in Daniel's lair, but for the most part, it's when Daniel interacts with the other members of the team, he plays it off like, there was an accident or something, and Teal'c met with an unfortunate premature demise. So rather dark for the show.
Well, and if you think about it, the description I read was tortured. So how horrible is that to think about, them showing one team member torturing the other team member, and then Jack and Sam finding out, but then how then do you have Jack walk in at the end of this episode like everything's okay? So I'm glad they cut it out. We already had Teal'c being tortured by Gould a couple of weeks ago. I don't need to see Daniel torturing him. That sounds horrible. So
yeah, exactly. And of course, all we know is that Daniel had a mission for Teal'c, and then Teal'c disappears, and we don't hear anything from him again. So it's okay. The obvious conclusion is he died on that mission,
right?
And it must have been something tragic. And of course, Daniel was blamed because of it. Well, obviously, it was much more.
Yeah,
so.
and we get a hint of this when Daniel's doing some translations and calls Teal'c in from deep Kel Narim and says, "Hey, you come in here." And Teal'c's like, "Okay, but I was in deep Kel Narim. What do you want?" And he's like, "What do you think about this word there?" And Teal'c's like, "Oh yeah," translates it. And Daniel's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And then as Teal'c walks out, Daniel looks at him and says, "I wonder if I could." He didn't say this, but you can just kind of see the wheels. He's like, "I wonder if I could use his blood to put an aqueduct in my blood."
Well, I think they showed him using the torturing him or something, right?
Oh yeah. And the vision,
right.
There's a little flashback scene, because a couple of those in there where he's visioning, torturing Teal'c as he's kneeling before him.
Yeah.
Shofar, kneel before me.
Yeah. No.
But no, it is. Like I said earlier, I think this is they did a good job of how they handled this, where it was all through just a dream. And also it was a good way to close off the whole Harcesis, the whole Sha'Rah plot line, where that's pretty much done now. We don't hear about it again. They've pretty well just closed that thread.
Right, because think about if that was still hanging out there, the idea that there's a child out there. We'd said that the child gave Daniel purpose. Sha'Rah was dead, so then he needed his new, I need something to fight for. But the idea of a child being out there who could defeat the Gould with all of the knowledge of the Gould, it for a TV show, it's almost too easy, right? To be able to find that one person that. So I'm glad they wrapped it up and kept moving, because then it allows them to, kind of to keep fighting the Gould and develop them as the bad guys.
Well, and one thing it shows too, that with having the knowledge isn't innocent. You also get the evil of the Gould, which sounds like a Doctor Who episode. But evil of the Daleks and the evil of the Gould. Yeah. No, but that they're evil partially because of the knowledge that they have that's passed on from generation to generation.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because this is the first time. We've seen Oma Dasala as kind of like the energy squid, being and stuff. But, the Harcesis child is the child of two Goulds, or, two human hosts. And I don't know how that works. But anyways, he's not like an ascended being, or as we would know them later as ancient. So it's kind of the first glimpse we have that you don't have to be, of whatever race Oma Dasala is in order to ascend, as they'll call it, and become an energy being and stuff. So that, will come back later on at the end of next season, but it does kind of set up that, ascended beings can become ascended beings.
Right. And as we find out how Oma and her race became who they are today, is because they were just like us, more or less, and had developed to that point where they could ascend. So now, do we want to talk about I jokingly call it, but the evil James Bond lair that he had? I thought that was,
I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. A lot of staff.
Yeah, the credits there, right tech, left tech, and rear tech.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the technicians was Yi So, who was on the Doctor Who 1996 movie as Chang Li. So he was kind of the companion, the kid that was kind of a companion of the Doctor in that one. So it was kind of cool to see him. But you can see Daniel, because of course he's thinking like a Goa'uld. He's in this dream, and becoming basically a Goa'uld without actually having the larva. And so, yeah, of course they have to have the super bunker where they're going to, control everything and take over the country and everything. So, of course, you had to have this cool bunker.
$80 billion or $160 billion, and then they had to speed up the project, but he still got his little chair on the monorail that goes out to the middle of the room, too. And
didn't have the cat, though. No cat that he was sitting there petting,
Yeah, right.
But that is a very good scene. I think that scene kind of makes the whole episode. If I remember nothing else from this episode, it's that scene where, Jack is trying to talk to him, and meanwhile his technicians, they appear to be like mindless, like the guys in the Flash Gordon movie are just kind of plugged in and like reading things off the monitor and stuff. And General Vedrine is there, and Vedrine at first is like very enthusiastic. It's like, yes, we know the Russians are going to try and nuke us if we launch this thing. We anticipated that. And there's a nice scene where Daniel is like doing his like cold calculations and stuff. And Vedrine is like, General Vedrine is like huge, or Chief of Staff Vedrine is very huge on the monitor behind him, out of focus. And he's talking, and the monitor is still out of focus, and Daniel is still in focus, just so you can focus on Daniel and not so much on Vedrine. And it's just really effective. So I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, they do, and it really showed how far Daniel had gone. Of course, just before that, that he had Sam arrested and trying to make her sound like she was nuts because she figured out what was going on, as Sam would. She'd be looking at all this stuff. It's like, you're really making a weapon to control the Earth, not just to defend the Earth.
Right.
And Daniel's like, oh, of course not. Now let me nuke Moscow.
Yeah,
because they don't agree with us.
Well, it's funny. You think about how do you do that? Then you think about, the way government contracts work, and people don't know. There's so much going on, and money, and I forgot what they called it. Where I can't remember the phrasing.
The limited, the division of labor or whatever they call it.
Yeah, division of resources.
Yeah. So I thought I really liked that, because I thought that you know what? There's all the conspiracy theories and everything else that goes on. You're like, that is how those things are plausible, is because no one person knows everything that's going on, except for Carter, of course.
You've got one group of people that's making the super lasers. And they don't know what the super lasers are being made for. They just know, hey, we've got this cool new weapon technology that we have to build. And we have to build, hundreds of them. So we build hundreds of them. One person's building the casing. What's this casing for? Well, some satellite. What's going in the satellite? Well, we just build the casing. Who cares? And so on and so on. And the missiles. Elon Musk is doing the Starlink missiles. No, actually, it was kind of funny. Those look like the Falcon 9 rockets.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they looked like the Falcon 9.
They looked like the Falcon 9 rockets. And of course, you had all these satellites coming out. So it's like, oh, it's Starlink with lasers.
Yeah. And then we get to see Major Davis in this episode too. And he's the one who, shows up with the project and stuff and says how much it'll cost, and, tries to stand up to Daniel. And then we don't see him anymore in the episode. So I think Major Davis was probably maybe disappeared as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He didn't get Daniel's all his personal requirements timely, right?
Yep.
Which is a very nice house, and so it was
bunker with ring transports. Elevators are too bulky, or too ridiculous, too much trouble.
I just love that he came down in his robe, in his pajamas.
Yep.
It just to me, it just showed what he thought of his authority. Right. He wakes up, comes out of bed, and they said the Joint Chiefs are waiting for your briefing, your 9 a.m. briefing. The fact that they're sitting there waiting for him, and he's just like, oh, I thought that was really well done, and how they conveyed his arrogance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That he had more control than even the president of the United States, And he could just get up, and I love that too, that Shifu was sitting there eating Fruit Loops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Breakfast is the best meal of the day. Oh, I'm going to teach that? And television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Became a normal child. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of normalcy there. That was kind of a cool
and it was
thing.
Fruit
Just
Loops.
to throw him in there, that he wasn't gone. He was still there.
Yeah. Because you hadn't seen him this whole time. And it was Fruit Loops, little nod to Window of Opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing I did like is that when Sam has been thrown in jail and Jack comes to visit her, and the two of them are talking, and my first thought was, this is Daniel's dream. How come we're seeing, Jack and Daniel talking to each other? Daniel's not there, and then we pan back and Daniel's watching them on the surveillance footage. I was like, okay, that's good. They thought of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, they use the same set the same jail that Mayborn was thrown into, meaning the same set. But it was the same exact jail cell that Mayborn was in.
Well, because you think about it, if it wasn't Daniel's dream sequence, then you sit there, that conversation with Jack and Sam. If it was really the two of them, that's not how that conversation would go. Because I don't think she would sit there and take it that he didn't believe her at all. And that he didn't wonder what happened to Teal'c. Or, that he just seems so nonchalant. Everything's, he's fine. Daniel, he's a little weird, but, all of that seemed very out of character for the two of them. And so having them being watched and realizing it's Daniel's dream made it make sense.
Yeah, and Jack would realize that he's under surveillance too, I think. So he would have to be kind of cagey. Yeah,
but they didn't have them give us the nod of looking up at a camera or it's okay. None of that. So that was,
and it makes
nice.
you wonder kind of
doing the whole,
if that's what Daniel thinks of Jack, that he just kind of, let it go. Smile and laugh about it and move on, which of course that's not how Jack would have been. Jack would have been upset about it.
Well, and that's what Daniel says, you never were that bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I think that shows in Daniel's arrogance. It's like, I'm the smart one. Carter's pretty smart, so we've got to get rid of her. But Jack, nobody's actually worried about Jack because he's too stupid to figure any of this out. It's fine.
Exactly. He's just, of course, he's going to carry a gun in and not going to realize that security is going to, frisk him on the way in, and stuff like that. It's like, no, I think Jack would be very well aware of that. He would be, if anything, he'd be thinking how dumb you are to allow it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. So that personal shield was a nice touch.
The gold shield, the one part of gold, the one piece of gold technology that he can get working.
Yeah, exactly.
Without the Naquita, yep.
Right. That was good. So it was interesting watching Jack have such a problem with Daniel being gung-ho about really fulfilling their mission. I mean, if you think about it, their mission is to bring back any technology that helps them strengthen Earth and defeat the Goa'uld. And so Daniel's doing that, and Jack's the one that's pushing back against him. So it was kind of a nice turnabout there. That
and Daniel flat out calls it. It's like you're just mad because I'm the one who's pushing for this and not you.
Yeah.
So that was a good,
a nice one.
Good little touch that the turnabout's fair play kind of thing.
Yeah. My daughter said that the two of them are checks and balances. In morality. And so she said that Daniel's becoming evil and cold and calculating and lost his morality, his central, that it disrupted their check and balance system. That's like, she paused it to tell me that.
That's great. So anything else you guys want to share about this one?
Daniel did raid Apophis's wardrobe for that little scene.
Oh, I totally didn't catch that.
Where
there was the dream sequence where he's
the dream within a dream.
Yeah, where he's envisioning himself doing the hand device to Apophis.
Right, and then they pan over to him. And, I mean, he's got the robes and all of the fancy stuff. We didn't talk about that. I liked those. Those were nice little interjections to show the transition of him to feeling kind of what Sifu warned about, that it's hard to have these memories without the evil taking over. And he didn't act on them right away, but he was experiencing them. So that was
because they show him, having Teal'c kneel in front of him, and Apophis getting hand deviced, and Sam getting the stun stick, the glowy-eyed mouth, cattle prod. So
so there's got to be a still somewhere out there on the internet, and I haven't looked for it yet, of Daniel dressed up like basically Apophis in his robes.
It goes by pretty quick. You only see him just long enough to recognize, oh, that's Daniel, and then he flashes back to normal dream.
Right.
Yeah, I mean these space squids, these ascended, ancient space squids, they have like one trick, and that's at the end of the episode. They just like beeline for the Stargate and like take off because they're too powerful to stay on the show. But we do get another floating head as Sifu's like, bye. And floating his head, floating in the energy, and he just like, like ascends out of there. But yeah.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
So now, do we have some titles for this one?
Oh, we do. We have. I picked 3 of them. Let me get those guys here. Yeah, so I thought we'd start with Portuguese first, and most of these are just absolute power translated into the respective languages. So for Portuguese, we get Poder Absoluto, which sounds like it could be a pretty cool like bossa nova song. In Russia, rest in peace Moscow. In this episode, we get absolute power, absolution naflatsya. And then German, we don't get absolute power. We get because absolute power, I guess, doesn't like work so well there. We get unlimited knowledge, which is unbegrenztes Wissen. So there's your languages. Apologies to anybody whose cherished mother tongue I just desecrated there, but I don't write these things. They come from the wiki, so
you just try to pronounce them badly.
That's my job. Yes.
Well, very good. And we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Brian K., James H., Charles K., and Dr. T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows here at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on the podcast on your favorite podcast app, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast app. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. Be sure to share the shows as well so that we can grow our audience. We want more people to find the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows here at StarQuest. So please do share them with your family, your friends, even those you might hate. You share it with them, if nothing else, if you don't like our shows and want to torture them. To find the previous episodes of Secret of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. Our email for feedback is stargate@sqpn.com. Follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing The Light, the next episode of SG-1. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me in the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Father Cory.
And Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Father Cory, and you assume this is not what I wanted all along.
And once again, I'm Father Cory Sticha. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?